Elizabeth, I don't think there's any point in your staying at the hospital. It's only hurting you to be here. Since you don't want to go home, I suggest that you and Sister Alma go out to my summer house by the sea. Don't you think I understand? The hopeless dream of being, not seeming but being. In every waking moment, aware, alert, the tug-of-war between who you are with others and who you really are. A feeling of vertigo and a constant hunger to be finally exposed, to be seen through, cut down, even obliterated. Every tone of voice a lie, every gesture false, every smile a grimace. Commit suicide? That's unthinkable. You don't do things like that. But you can refuse to move and be silent. Then at least you're not lying. You can shut yourself in, shut out the world. Then you don't have to play any parts, make any faces, make false gestures. You would think so. But reality is diabolical. Your hiding place isn't watertight. Life trickles in everywhere. You're forced to react. Nobody asks if it's real or not, if you're honest or a liar. That's only important at the theater. Maybe not even there. Elizabeth, I understand why you're silent, why you don't move, and I admire you for it. Your silence has become a fantastic part. I think you should keep playing this part until it's no longer interesting for you. And then you can leave it, as you leave all your roles.
A lot of people have said I'm a good listener. That's strange, isn't it? Nobody's ever bothered to listen to me. I mean like you're doing now. You're listening to me now. You look kind. I think you're the first person who's listened to me. It can't be particularly interesting, can it? And yet there you sit. You could be reading a good book instead. Goodness, how I'm going on. I hope it doesn't bore you. It's so nice to talk. No, everything feels so warm and nice just now. I feel it. I've never felt it in all my life. I've always wanted a sister. All I've had is a whole crowd of brothers, 7 of them. It's funny, isn't it? I've had boys of all ages around me ever since I can remember. It's been fun. I like boys. You know all about that, of course, from your own experience. You're an actress. You've been through so much. You do know, don't you? I like Carl Hennick a lot. And, you know, maybe you only fall in love once. But I'm faithful to him, of course. Otherwise, in our job, there are other possibilities, I can tell you. It wasn't that. It was last summer. Carl Hennick and I went on holiday together. It was June, and we were quite alone. He went into town one day. It was sunny and hot, so I went down to the water. There was another girl there, sunbathing. She lived on an island nearby and had taken the canoe over down to our beach. It lay to the south, and it was much more private, you see. We lay there, sunbathing, quite naked. Slept a bit, woke up, put on some oil. We each had one of those big straw hats, one of those big cheap ones. Sometimes I peeped through the hat, and I looked at the scenery, the sun and the sea. It was all so funny. Then I saw 2 boys jumping up on the rocks high above us. Now and then they hid themselves and peeked at us from behind the stones. "There's a couple boys looking at us," I said to the girl. Katerina, she was called. "Let them look," she said. Turned over on her back. Such a strange feeling. All the time I wanted to get up and put my bathing robe on. But I just lay there, still in my stomach, not at all embarrassed, all sort of calm. The whole time I had Katerina beside me, with her little breasts and thick thighs. She lay absolutely still, just giggling a bit. I saw the boys coming closer. Now they didn't worry at all. They stood there, looking at us, without trying to hide. They were both awfully young, about 16, I should think. One of the boys, who had a bit more courage, came up and squatted down beside Katerina. He pretended to be busy with his foot, just picking at his toes. I began to feel all wet, but I still lay there on my stomach, with my hands under my head and the hat over my face. Then I heard Katerina say, "Why don't you come here a bit?" And she took the boy's hand and pulled him over to her and helped him off with his jeans and shirt. Suddenly, he was over her, and she was helping him. She was holding her hands under his thin, hard bottom. The other boy sat up on the slope staring. Katerina laughed and muttered something in the boy's ear. I saw his red face sort of swollen next to me. Then I turned and suddenly said, "Why not come to me too?" And Katerina laughed and said, "Off to her you go now." And he pulled himself out of her and fell over me, all hard, and took a hold of one of my breasts so that I shouted because it hurt. I was all ready somehow, came almost all at once. Can you believe it? I was just going to say, "Be careful so I don't get a baby," when he came to, and I felt it, and I've never felt it in all my life, before or since. How he shot it into me. He held my shoulders tight and bit backwards. It felt as if it was never going to end. It was all hot and came again and again. Katerina lay on her side, holding him from behind. When he was finished, she took his hand and made herself come. When she came, she screamed like anything. Then we all laughed, all three of us. We called for the other boy, whose name was Peter. He came slowly down the slope, looking all confused and frozen. Couldn't have been more than 13 or 14, we saw, when he came up. Katerina unbuttoned his trousers and played with him. He just sat there, looking serious and quiet. She stroked him and she took him in her mouth. Then he began to kiss her back, and she took his head between her hands and gave him her breasts. The other boy got so excited that he and I started all over again. It went very fast, and it was just as good for me as it was the first time. Then we had a swim and left each other. When I came home, Carl Henrik was already back from town. We had dinner and drank some wine he had bought. Then we went to bed. It's never been so good between us, before or since. Can you believe that? Then, of course, I got pregnant. Carl Henrik, who's studying medicine, took me to a friend of his who did an abortion on me. We were all pretty happy to get away with it so easily. We didn't want children. Not then, anyway. Nothing fits when you start to